Hi there, welcome back to another episode of Manx Radio's newscast. I'm Christian Jones and I'm a journalist here in the newsroom. We're talking strikes, industrial action, accusations of fire and rehire from the Maritime Union representing workers, and the steam packet refuting those allegations. But there are worries keeping steam packet workers on board the Manxman as part of proposed new conditions to their employment will affect the local economy and disband communities as a result. Nautilus, the union, has spent the past week on the Isle of Man meeting members to gauge their feelings amid the dispute. Garry Elliot is the union's senior national organiser who sat down with me when he was on the island. He told me some members aren't against living on board, but others feel like they're not being heard.
Having visited the ships yesterday and visited the members, we were quite taken back by the strength of feeling, who feel that the company has been quite disingenuous in a lot of its press releases. And they feel quite aggrieved by that because we're talking about a flexible, loyal, long-serving workforce who've gone the extra mile on many, many occasions, have lived on board many, many occasions. And I think it's a little bit disappointing that the managing director is using the rhetoric that he is. But he's doing it most through the media, and that's upsetting for our members because they get no right of reply.
So the main dispute isn't the fact of living on board, it's that the steam packet are seemingly unwilling to negotiate the introduction of these terms.
Exactly. It's really a bit of a red herring. It is the issue that's brought us to this position. But it's the tactics taken by the employer that are really, we wouldn't expect of anyone. But a low-cost operator, and the Isle of Man steam packet is most certainly not a low-cost operator.
And how many members does Nautilus have? We know it's about 30% of the steam packet's workforce, but what does that look like as a number?
You know, we're up to 80, 90 officers on board them ships. I mean, that's in the public domain. They know the complement of the ships, and we represent the majority of them officers. And there's a significant number on the island, I believe, again, the peddling of disingenuous information, that there's very few officers who actually live on the Isle of Man, is what the company are peddling, is actually inaccurate. I mean, one, how would they know who's a member? Because they won't know that anyway. But also, there's a requirement to employ a percentage of seafarers on the island. Now, that will be made up of ratings, that will be made up of officers, but we've got a significant number who do reside on this island.
Have any of the members signalled to you about them reconsidering their future with the profession or the company if this dispute isn't cleared up?
Discussions have been going on for nearly 2 years, on and off, and we are aware of some members that have already left the organisation because of the way that it was heading. You know, and we're trying to do everything we can to avoid any form of industrial action, and our members know that. If I was sitting in their shoes and I was thinking they're making a fundamental and significant change to my terms and conditions and contract of employment, they're not just making a change, it's fundamental, and they're going to now impose it. And if they don't get their way imposing it, they'll rip up my terms and conditions and my contract of employment and offer me new employment on the other terms. What reasonable employer would do that? So I then have to question, well, what will follow from that? What other terms and conditions? What else are they going to look at? If they're prepared to go down that road, what else?
So the steam packet is saying it simply wants to change its business model, but we know the core of any business is cash flow. So could this be a wider issue and living on board is just the start?
It's always a strange one, isn't it? Because an employer and an owner will say the biggest asset that they have is their employees. So if that's the case, how do you reward your employees? You give them good terms and conditions of employment. The Isle of Man steam packet do have good terms and conditions. It's not by a fluke. It's because of collective bargaining over many, many decades and that negotiation's taken place. You can't, at the stroke of a pen, suddenly say we're making a fundamental change to terms and conditions and contracts of employment. People in senior positions in this company who've worked here for 17, 18, 19 years, and suddenly you've given them about 2 months' notice that you're going to change the whole of their lifestyle for the rest of their working life.
Well, the crux of the SPC's argument is that they want to improve reliability. What do you make of that?
When you're trying to identify to the public it will make it more reliable, it will make it safer. No, it's inaccurate. There's a lot of flexibility already takes place on these vessels, but some of the actions that it will encounter, allowing people only a couple of hours proper rest as we see it, good rest, is dangerous. And they're concerned about that. They're concerned about that for themselves. They're concerned about that for the public. The people who are opposed to it aren't saying, well, the facilities aren't up to it, or the isn't satisfactory for the people who want to do it. It's wider than that. It's the fact that they've worked a certain way. They've come to the island, they've settled on the island, they've settled as a community on the island over many, many decades. The children may have been born on the island. They're all contributing to it, to being a successful and positive island. So you can't carry out these sort of actions and expect it to have no implication on the community on the island. Of course it's going to. It's twofold, isn't it? There's the cost element and the facilities that they use whilst on the island. But there's also the principle and the morale and the morals of it, that they're mixing with the community as indicated, whether they're taking the children to school or they're facilitating meetings elsewhere with family, relatives and other organisations. They're contributing to the community of the island. If you keep them on the ship, you might as well take them 6 mile out and put them out in the middle of the Irish Sea. Because being a couple of 100 yards off and keeping them on the ship, there's no point in being in the Isle of Man because they're not here.
If we go back to the reliability aspect, if the steam packet know that industrial action is on the cards here, having a union that could take its workers on strike and disrupt services, that doesn't seem like it goes a long way to fulfilling that reliability promise.
And I think this is why we've tried to keep consultation, negotiation open, because we've said to the owners that why would you want to dispute? Why are you heading sleepwalking into a dispute? I've said previously it's very much a last resort. I mean, I think someone made the statement that we're looking for industrial action. The union wants to take industrial action. Let me just say to them people that Nautilus International has took one industrial action strike in 22 years. Does that sound like a union that every 6 months is out on strike? No. Would we do it? Of course we would. If our members say they want us to ballot for industrial action, that's what we'll do. But we'll keep all the channels open that we possibly can to try and find a resolution. We don't want ships disturbed. We don't want ships tied up. Of course we don't. It's a lifeline service. It's supplying the island. It's a very, very much last resort. But we've got a managing director that seems to be hell-bent on walking into that. They're a good employer. They're a good owner. They always have been. And we've always had amicable negotiations. Why change that?
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.